Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to make a quick video and let you know I'm still here. Go over a couple new things. Um, I was wanting to also kind of do a public service message. For people out there, I know things can get pretty bad sometimes, and if you're contemplating suicide, please talk to someone, get help. And I say that because one of my best friends took his own life. On the 22nd of April, and so I was depressed because I lost my wife, and since my wife passed in August of 2020, she passed on August the 26th, 2020. Um, I've lost 25 people total. My grandmother, my sister, and I would never contemplate suicide, and I honestly believe that if you are that depressed, and maybe really seek someone, go seek a professional or talk to somebody, talk to a friend. I hadn't talked to him as much lately. He used to call me. He was the one who started calling me when my wife passed away, so really he was the person I talked to the most after my wife passed. um, But again, I would never do that, and I just wanted to let people know. And my message right now, to George is I really see now that Star Wars has really took a big dip, and it's going downhill, and a lot of people are not enjoying what they've done with it and what they are doing with it, and it's sad. Really, it is, because as I've said in my other videos, I like the first three movies, but the fact that you stole something from me and used them in the first three movies, and you never kept your word, has really what turned me away from them. And if you had ever been honest, or if you even now decided you were going to be honest and tell the truth, maybe things would be a little different. But I don't think you're ever going to tell the truth. So on that level, I don't really want your money if that's what it's about, and you want to, and it's all about you taking something, and that's still, I bet, the reason why you kept asking me who else knew about it, and because you never planned on keeping your word to me. And for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, George Lucas had a cousin named Jack Hamburger who lived around the corner from me in Louisville, Kentucky in 1974. I was 7 years old. Um, and his cousin was in our front yard. We were playing Pirates, and he heard me say the words Jedi Knight and the Force, because I'm the one who brought that here. You wouldn't know it if it wasn't for me. And he took it and he told George, and then he started systematically bugging me every day to come over to his house and get on the phone with George. And that's when George got it. He got it in 1974, and I can tell you again, as I told you in the last video, that he got it at the end of April 1974. And if you look at the first manuscript, if you can see his manuscripts before April 1974 and the one he released right after for Star Wars, the manuscript, he came out in the end of May, or sometime in May of 1974. He didn't know the word Jedi Knight until that document, that one in May, and he didn't know it because he didn't get it from me until April. And again, Easter was the week of April the 14th, and if you're going by that week, I mean, Sunday is the first day of the week, or you can call it whatever you want. But the 20th was the next weekend. We were playing in the yard with Jack Hamburger, his cousin, and that's when he heard me say Jedi Knights in the Force. And I got them from, I had a near-death experience, let's put it that way. And so things happened. I learned it then, and whether you believe in that sort of thing, that's up to you. That's your problem, because if it didn't happen, you wouldn't know Jedi Knight, period. You wouldn't even know what it was. You would have never heard of it, because he would have had to come up with some other name. Then we moved to Florida right after that. I put it on paper. I put it in a document sleeve. I had a piece of evidence and it disappeared, but that's another story. And if you go back to my other videos, the point is I just, it's easy for people to make up fiction. And one of the things about Star Wars, is George just didn't have the imagination everybody thinks he did, because he didn't even think up the synopsis, which I believe he bought. The synopsis was actually taken from a Japanese movie called The Forbidden City, which he took, and then he just redid it all, and then changed the characters and added things, and everything he added was plagiarized from someone else. I mean, if you go look at the Star Killer's channel, and this is just some of it. Now he doesn't have everything I have. The Star Killer's channel, he has a video called "Did Lee Brackett Ghostwrite Star Wars?" Now, Lee Brackett did write Star Wars. I don't care what anybody says. When you look at everything that came from her books, all of the elements from her books and her husband's books, because Edmund Hamilton, like, you know, between the two of them, they invented lightsabers. They invented tractor beams, they were the ones who envisioned it, and it was in their books. From 1933, some of their books talked about, the book that talked about lightsabers was in 1933. So, how many years was that before Star Wars came out in 1977? So you start moving forward and look at everything. His soundtrack. Now, I found parts of his soundtrack other places. So, his soundtrack was mostly from Gustav Holst's Planet Suite. Now, there's some stuff that came from King's Row. The very opening. Dun, 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 that was from King's Row, which was another. Which are some guys on YouTube who also have another video where they go over some of the things in his soundtrack that were in other artists, composers' music, and they took bits and pieces and put it all together. See, and that's the same thing he did to Star Wars. You look at all of his characters, like the bounty hunter Bosk. He was taken from the Gorn in Star Trek. The Antinian dignitary from Star Trek, I think it's Antinian. I'm not saying that right, but he was the where they got the idea for Admiral Akbar, because he had a fish head and a funny mouth. They made him look more like a catfish in Star Wars. The Dancing Green Girl. There was a Dancing Green Girl in Star Trek. Yoda was taken from the Voynich manuscript. He was a little demonic figure. That's what they called him, a demonic figure from the Voynich manuscript. And they used him for Yoda. And I can go on. I mean, the design of the Falcon, the design itself was kind of borrowed from this submarine hunter from the early 70s, right before the Soviet Union collapsed. It was called the Bartini Beriev VVA-14. That design was also incorporated into the design of the Falcon. Then the name Falcon actually also came from Lee Brackett and Edmund Hamilton's book. So I can go on. He didn't even write Star Wars. Then Lee Brackett came in and wrote it all, and then they didn't even give her credit until they put her name, Lee Brackett. This is a fact. Her name is in the Empire Strikes Back credits, because they know she wrote probably all three of the first Star Wars. And then I don't doubt, from what I understand, they had given him enough material that he probably did all six of the ones he did from her. Except he added things like midi-chlorians. Where did that come from? It's dumb. Midi-chlorians was a dumb idea. I don't know what made him think that, but you know, the Force is the will of God, and that's what I knew, what he took from me in 1974 and what I told him. So he just directly slapped God in the face. That's between him and God. The Jedi Knight is not a job you can train to be. Personnel training course that you can become. It's a being. Now, when I saw him, he was an angel, okay? And that's, again, I told you I had a near-death experience. You can buy whatever you want. Believe what you want. But that's irrelevant. I don't really want his money. I don't want his fame. He can't tell the truth. I don't want nothing from him. So, again, and I can sit here and talk about things that, like the flying scroll. There's something in the Bible about a flying scroll, about somebody stealing. And what's the first thing you see in Star Wars? And right there in the first thing, the second paragraph of of his flying scroll in Star Wars, what do you see? It's the word steal, and it's in the Bible. But the Bible says that the flying scroll will go out across the land. How would you make a flying scroll go out across the land? Television, movies. See, I'm not saying it's the same one, but it sure seems very similar, coincidental. I don't know how you would word that. Auspicious. You can probably pick several words. I just wanted to let you know. See, my book is out, but this is actually the first version, and I got a upgraded version. Now you can see how it says. Well, you probably can't tell, but it says death. But when you turn it upside down, it says life. See, but everything's backwards. And well, from what I'm looking at, I think you probably are seeing it right. Just looks backwards to me on the screen. But this is only part one. See, but just like anybody else, one thing about fiction is you can put the truth in there too. You can put truth in fiction. Truth, and that's the cool thing, Sometimes things come out that, people don't know, and sometimes they find them out, or they learn lessons from things that are, when you're speaking to someone of a story or a tale, that you can express a point that makes a point that means something. You see what I mean? So fiction can be used to express an opinion that can be explained easier sometimes in pictures, and that's the thing about this. See, and this is actually real. So there's 430 pages of my book, and that's that's not revised yet. Plus, I also flipped this because this is the story itself. It's part of the story. See, so I even changed this a little bit. So everything is changed a little bit on here, but I mean it's basically the same. I changed Dracula, and my name is easier to read on the new one. And this in the new one is upside down because it relates to the book. Because in the book, the front of the book is, you'll find out. You have to read the book to understand. The point is, I just wanted to explain that sometimes things that some people perceive as fiction are not fiction. And George knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, that being said, the truth has a way of coming out, and eventually it will. And the people who are behind how he got the evidence are, I wouldn't say they're going to get caught, but there's a good chance that they can. They can get caught, and it seems more and more evident that things are starting to come to light everywhere. So it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out, and when it does, it probably might not fare so well for him. And George, like I told you a long time ago, I'm still wondering. I got a phone call one time, and I'm still wondering to this day if that was you who was talking to me. And on that blocked phone call, I remember I was living in, 91 or 92? I was living on Lucia, and someone called my phone. And I don't know. I kind of always thought maybe it was you, but I could have been wrong. It could have been someone else. And I don't predict what people's lives have been like. But one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't steal from a 7-year-old kid, and I wouldn't lie about it, and I wouldn't have done it and then left them and never came back and said, at least, even if you wanted to keep it quiet and not said. But the fact that you haven't done anything and you left me there, and I was in a foster home a year after you stole it from me, just so you know, again, and I think I've said that in my other videos, after you stole Jedi Knights and the Force, and of course I've said this too, that Lee Brackenham and Hamilton had a Force in their books, but I was 7, I had never read their books, I knew nothing about their version of the Force or what their Force was. And the only way I knew about him was when I just found the Star Killers video about Lee Brackett ghostwriting Star Wars. So that's how I found out about Lee Brackett and Edmund Hamilton, and that was just a couple years ago, or maybe a little over a year ago, actually. So, do what you want, George. The truth's going to come out eventually, and I think, it's hard for me to predict where you're at because I've seen your interviews with Charlie Rose and Leslie Stahl, which we know she's a beacon of honesty. I just, any of your media people are, they're not truthful. But that's the point. You've been avoiding the truth all this time for 48 years now. It was 1974. It's 48 years. Actually, going on 49 years soon. Won't it be? Let's see. 1974 is going to. No, we're going on. 49 years now. Wow, that's been a long time. Long time since you've got what you wanted. Actually, right now is that time. Right. It's 49 years. Wow, it's amazing. 49 years people have known that you took Jedi Knights of the Force from a 7-year-old kid. And it's terrible to find out that I was actually semi-disabled at the time because I'm disabled now because of my knees. But I'm not sure that they relate because this was a different issue, arthritis. But because I was burned when I was a kid, that's when I almost died. That's how I ended up where I was, and you almost I wouldn't say almost, you stole Jedi Knights in the Force. That's where I was when I learned it, because I pulled a coffee percolator down on me, and they say I didn't die, but I think I died. So because I wouldn't have been where I was if I wasn't dead somehow, or just like that other kid in that movie. What was that other? And that was a true story, right? Heaven is for real, or whatever that movie is. He said they said he wasn't dead, but he was in heaven. So I literally think it was the exact same thing, except it was me and not him. So you can believe what you want, and I still remember what God said to me. Everything is going to be all right, and no matter what, I know that things are going to come back on you eventually. So it doesn't matter what you think or how you think you're going to get out of it. When people find the truth about you, that you plagiarized everything in Star Wars and you even defrauded a 7-year-old kid to put it together, it's not going to look good on you, dude. And you're lying about it for 49 years. Then you tried to have me arrested in 2000. Remember that? 23 years ago. It was 2001. So 22 years ago, you tried to have me arrested when I was just talking to you. I wasn't even being really rude. You were aggravating me because you wouldn't, respond back to me, but I didn't really threaten you, and you tried to have me arrested. And you know what? That's going to come back on you too, because I've never been to jail in my life. I don't make false accusations about people. I don't make up stories about anybody. So my story's here. If I make up a story, it's going to be in a book, and it's fiction. It's not going to be about a real person, and I wouldn't make up something about you and anybody for that matter, or Jay Leno. You know what I mean? So the truth is the truth, and it's going to either benefit you or it's going to hurt you. And in your case, it looks like it's going to hurt you, because the truth's going to come out and people are going to find out you deliberately stole, and you made an oral contract. See, you said, you give me that thing, I'll make you rich and famous. You lied to a 7-year-old kid. You made an oral contract. You did not keep it. You lied. You took Jedi Knights of the Force. You used them in Star Wars. Everybody thinks it's all great, and I see people all over the internet with their Jedi and their name, and I say, that's bad, right? And they're like, huh? So I'll tell everybody, and I keep telling them, because I'm not going to stop telling the truth, dude, because they took something that was stolen, and they don't know it was stolen. So if they knew the truth about it, I doubt they would be using it. Anyway, you all have a good evening and take care. And one more thing, I'll repeat it again. If you're contemplating suicide, speak to someone, talk to somebody, because you don't understand that the people that you've been around your whole life, and people that you maybe aren't even thinking about at that time, it hurts them too. So it hurts everybody who's been in your world. And like with my friend, for instance, I have 43 years of memories with this person. Me and him were running around in the early days, of Journey, listening to Journey and band, all those songs now. When I hear them, they'll remind me of him, and it's sad because he was so down, and I understand people can get down, but that's why you need to talk to someone. And talk to someone. Call suicide prevention line. Do something. Don't take away your life and take the easy way out and leave everybody else, the ones who might care about you. You know what I mean? Because it hurts them too. Take care.